So I didn't even know that this. I didn't even know what this was until I read this article. I didn't even know this movie. I didn't even know what it was. Didn't know this was a movie. Elio.
Elio.
This is a Pixar movie, an
Yes, it is.
children's film. And as I dug into this, reading this article, I was just flabbergasted by the insanity behind Disney, because Pixar's Disney. And this is just mental shit. And it really is mental shit. Budget of this movie is looking like $300 million for something that looks like this. Like, what are you doing, mate? Whose nose is that going up? Fire them. This is mental. Now, what's comical about it is a Pixar movie typically is like 150 to $200 million. Even that's too high because they don't look good. They look fine. Where are you spending that money? I just think, again, I don't care. It's not my money, but I just look at it from an outsider's perspective looking in. It's just so monumentally mismanaged. It's insane. And this one especially, right? So Pixar's next big release, Elio, is shaping up to be one of the most expensive animated films ever made. Ever made. With sources now estimating its production cost at nearly $300 million before marketing. So it'll be more than 100 million, but just chuck 100 million on there. That's $800 million to break even for a kids' film. What are you doing? So the eye-watering figure puts Elio budget in the same cost bracket as major live-action blockbusters and far beyond what's typical for an animated feature. Now, what's comical about this, right, is, you got the likes of Universal, right? So is it Universal? Illumination and DreamWorks. Yeah, so one of them's like Universal.
Universal.
So
Yeah.
they're competitors. They make movies for like $100 million. I know that's fair. Like I mean, it's still insane. But $100 million, that's much more. That's ballpark. I could see that, I guess, to a degree. It's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of animation and stuff, and they look better. They look better than Pixar films. Illumination, DreamWorks, Mario. For instance, the Super Mario Brothers movie. Like these 130 million. What is Pixar spending it on? I don't get it. Insane.
Well, to get in front of this article a little bit, they're spending it on redeveloping this film multiple times.
Yeah, exactly. So this was my next point, and this is Disney's issue. Why are you greenlighting a film that you haven't read the bloody script for, you plebs? Like, why? They do this all the goddamn... Again, I don't care. It's not my money. Right? But I do care when theaters close down because they're given shit and no one watches the films. Like, I care about that. I like the cinema. I like going to the cinema. If it's a good movie, I love going to the cinema. I think it's a really nice atmosphere. In the daytime when no one else is there. Atmosphere of one, me. The budget bloke is only part of Elio's troubled backstory. Originally announced in 2022, scheduled for a March 2024 release date, the film was delayed by over a year to June 2025. That delay came after extensive reworking, including a complete creative overhaul. So they fired the director and just was like, oh yeah, scheduling conflicts. It's never scheduling conflicts.
Yeah.
And then they've even changed bloody voice actors.
Yep.
There's large scale rewrites. Why are you rewriting a script? You've greenlit it. You're deep into production. You're years into production. You're rewriting a script. Like, what are you doing? It's just it's chronic mismanagement in Hollywood. And again, I'm not. This isn't from a perspective of like I care, but I care about the industry. I don't want the industry to die. Like I like movies. I don't care if Hollywood dies in general, But I care if movies die. I think they're a fantastic medium, and I like movies generally. They're really good escapism and educational. Not the modern education, but some of them can be really educational. Um, so I talk about this stuff because I just think it's mental, and this is mental. A kids movie with like a $400 million budget, $400+ million budget. That's insane. That's actually insane. So that's it. I just want to talk about it because I just find it baffling. Again, chronic mismanagement, or it's up someone's nose, one of the two. But look at this, is fucking awful looking.
Yeah.
Like, this looks terrible. These are ugly designs, man. This is horrendous. So there you go. Let's go to you first, Bo, mate.
Yeah, the thing I would say is I think you've hit the nail on the head when you talk about chronic mismanagement. The inability to do project management properly, like that's to change the direction, change the sort of the entire artistic look of something 2 years into it or whatever it was, and a project spiraling out of all control. That's, you can't fail much harder than that. Like I worked in business for many, many years and been on the peripheries of project management and stuff. And with the project with the budget of in the low tens of thousands, you would absolutely be fired in ignominy if you failed this hard on a project that's just a few tens of thousands. So if you're playing with hundreds of millions of dollars and you failed like this, people get whacked, people get murdered for so much smaller amounts than this, right? 300 million, I do this all the time, don't I? But it's an absurd amount. You can buy whole infrastructures for countries for that sort of thing. You can start setting up like a railway system for a small country or something for that sort of money, right? You can buy hospitals from scratch for that sort of money. It's obscene. And the only thing I can think is, as you've mentioned, or a few people in the chat mentioned, it's fraud. There's some sort of embezzlement or something going on. Lots of different organizations are guilty of this, but I've seen it in the US military where they'll just say that a new spanner costs $800 or a bag of screws costs $1,000, and the project managers aren't doing their job, so that just goes through, right? And so that's how you end up spending 300 million on a piece of crap. It's mad. It is mad to me. I haven't even heard of this story until you started this segment. Never even heard of it.
Neither did this. Is the thing. Neither did I. I do this for a living.
Okay, well,
it's my job to know this.
I've been aware of this for a long time, but that's again because I had a lot of inside track way back when. And this film originally started in the pre-development phase about 2019, end of 2019, beginning of 2020. It was officially announced at an event, a Disney event back in 2022. And when it moved beyond that, they kept having to push the date back for when it would release. Some of it, of course, we had a strike in there. Remember that. But some of it was because they just kept changing elements from the voice actors to the directors. They kept changing the story. This went through 3 rewrites. And a lot of speculation behind it was that they saw the writing on the wall, and with the changes that they made to Inside Out 2, they had to do even more. This got pushed back again right around that same period of time. Also, you remember they canceled the episode of the Pixar TV show Win or Lose because it had a transgender character storyline in it. So some of the speculation is they were really busy on this thing, ripping out all the woke storytelling, which was the reason for its added expense and its multiple rewrites and the loss of directors. The first person I think that was said to be in this was Adrian Molina, that was the director. And I believe this was also announced with the voice actor of America Ferrera, right? Who is everybody's,
Yeah.
you know. And so, as far as the voice cast changing and all the other things that happened in the background, this led to an over $300 million budget. Now, Disney isn't going to let this flounder because it's an extraordinary amount of money to spend on something animated here in the States, et cetera, et cetera. This went into post-production. That also was an incredibly extended period of time, which means they were still reworking it. But they're going to spend $140 million minimum on marketing for this. So when you look at this movie, look at $450 million on the table and set it on fire, because this is not going to earn its money back. It just isn't. It's like it's the same thing I would have told you to do with Snow White, right? I'm like, just set that money on fire. Just put it on a table, set it on fire. And Disney needs to stop doing that, because that's not a profitable business model. I don't think.
I think it's worse than that. So just pissing on a pile of money and then trying to set it on fire. It's like the worst possible
Soggy
thing
money.
ever.
Maybe.
Like actually mental,
Yeah.
genuinely mental, bizarre.
wonder-
JJ says, "Good stuff, fellas. Thanks so much, bud. Appreciate it."
I know we've talked about it before, the way the structure of Disney works, the way the senior leadership and the structure of it works. So culture, I'm sure, or Nick, you know much more about this than me. I wonder at what point, or if it's even possible, for like the shareholders to call an EGM, an extraordinary general meeting, and coup their own leadership, because they're running the thing into the ground. Obviously so.
No, so
Not really possible, right? No.
Bob Iger stacked the board of directors with
Yes.
his pals.
Yep.
Right.
And it's obviously, and so no, they're not going to do that. And then the biggest shareholders are people like BlackRock.
Yep.
They're not gonna.
No, that
you'd have to have like the
Yeah.
majority of the individual shareholders grouped together to do the thing, but they're never going to do that. How can they organize that? Like, they just can't.
The best chance they had was with Perlmutter and Peltz, right? And the problem is that the institutional ownership of this, Bo, I know you don't have time to look it up, but I know you'll appreciate the fact that over 16% of Disney is owned by institutional shareholders, such as BlackRock and Vanguard and State Street. And
so did you say 60 or 16?
16.
Right. That's not fantastic. I mean, that is significant, highly significant, but that's not.
But they're unified in their voting, right?
Okay.
And that's the problem, is they all are for this Larry Fink forced change scheme, which has been destroying Disney now for the better part of 9 years, if you think about it. Because
So,
when was Endgame? Endgame was 2019?
No, it was way before then, mate.
Marvel Endgame? You guys remember?
I don't remember off the top of my head. Zombies saying 2019. But
Endgame was the last thing that had only barely been touched by the woke garbage. Everything else prior to that had very little tinge of that. And the industry started to tilt that direction back in about 2014, which is why we ended up Ghostbusters 2016. And all of that came out of like other creative industries such as comics, where they were starting to do that back in 2011.
Shit time we've been in. God, it's so.
I know.
It's so pitiful, isn't it? When you look back at it, you're like, this is. It's so painfully obvious that this was going to backfire. What are you doing? And then obviously the result of it, you just look at the plethora of crap that we've received in this awful experiment to push an agenda, because that's what it is. It's a social experiment.
Exactly. Yeah.
Effectively
Except
push this nonsense. It's just such crap.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's
Everything
the
that they've
most
made,
expensive
such
social experiment ever. Yeah.
awful.
Well, anyway, regardless, that's how we ended up where we are. I don't know that somebody keeps on the regular, and it's not the same person, and I'm sure you guys both hear this too. When are we going to be out of this? The minute the corporation, whichever one it is, that is suffering under the weight of financial failure back to back to back to back, and doesn't have infinite financial support by investment structure that allows for them to fail constantly and consistently. Whenever one of these companies comes up against that wall and realizes that it's beyond existential at that point, that's when the beginning of the change will happen. And the beginning of the change isn't what's happening now. How much can we get away with? How much of this do we have to roll back and still get away with our social experiment? Once we get to the end of that for one of these big studios, that's when you'll see the beginning of the change, which will take somewhere between 2.5 and 3 years. Because all of the material that is currently in production has to clear the pipes. We thought we were going to get that. We were wrong. So,
oh dear. Right. Well, anyway, let's shuffle on from this disaster.